Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson, but I'm gonna be going into this name, Jivas, so-called Jesus. I'm just gonna say Jivas. Matter of fact, I'm gonna say JC because we hate that name, and that's a stronghold that's on a lot of our people. That name, is a very great stronghold. So I'm gonna show you that the letter J was created in 1524. So that's impossible that the Messiah name was Jivas, JC. All right, when you go into that name, Jesus Christ, it means Christos, which Christos means the anointed, right? So this is all confusion, but that's the stronghold that's on most of our people. So let's go here. So I'm gonna prove everything that I'm saying, and let's go here first, because this is why you have to be knowledgeable. When you wake up to the truth, to come out of complete ignorance. But this is a curse on our people. Hosea 4:6 means that God's people, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, people, which are the Israelites, are destroyed because the lack of knowledge. It didn't say the lack of so-called money. It didn't say the lack of resources. It didn't say the lack of what's the term, land. It didn't say that. It said lack of knowledge. Knowledge is the fundamental of everything in life, the fundamental baseline of everything in this life, having knowledge. It says, and that's why people pay people to do things that they don't know how to do. I'm going to show you how powerful knowledge is. It says, in that Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, will also reject the priests who have rejected knowledge and forgotten God's laws, leading to their children also being forgotten. That's why you got these great curses of ignorance on our people. So lack of knowledge. Let's go here. It says, this passage emphasizes that the Israelites' destruction stems from a lack of knowledge of God and his laws. This knowledge is not just intellectual understanding, but a relationship with God based on his truth and commandments. Do you hear this? Check this out. It says consequences. God's rejection of the priests and forgetting their children are consequences of their lack of knowledge and their rejection of God's authority. This illustrates that the consequences of spiritual ignorance and disobedience are far reaching. So yeah, that's why most of our people don't know really nothing what's going on. So let's go here. Let's get into some knowledge. So go right here. When was the letter J invented? So this will clear all this confusion up that's on a lot of you Jakes. It says the letter J, and if you new to this, you're gonna learn today. The letter J was not invented in the way a new technology might be. It said involved from the letter I. So it wasn't a letter J. It says as a distinct grapheme in the 16th century, specifically in 1524 by Italian Renaissance scholar Gian Giorgio Trissino. That's when the letter J sound was invented. You hear this? So prior to that, there was no letter J sound. So what does that mean? That kills that name Jivas. That's impossible that was his name because the letter J and the sound of the letter J was not invented yet. So let's go here. Let me show you something else. Give me 1 second. So let me go here. So this is Ecclesiasticus prologue. At the top, it says, this phrase for the same things uttered in Hebrew is a statement highlighting the nuances and potential differences in meaning when a text is translated from its original language, Hebrew, into another language. So when you take the name Jivas, right, you take the name God, them are all false names. When you go back into the Hebrew, that's why you have to establish the Most High name in Hebrew. His name is Yahweh, and his son name is Yahweh Shah. Point blank, period. Because we're going back into the original text, the original language. When you get all these translations, it takes from that, originality. It takes from the power of the name and the son name, pursuant to the book of Proverbs 30:4. If thou can tell us what is his name and what is his son name, you have to go back into the Hebrew. This is basic as it gets, but this is going to lose a lot of people because they've been severely indoctrinated, brainwashed, lack of knowledge, destroyed. It says it acknowledges that translating religious texts or any text from Hebrew can lead to subtle variations in interpretation. Do you hear this? Even if the words themselves are rendered accurately, it says nuances of language. Hebrew, like all languages, has its own unique idioms, cultural context, and specific ways of expressing ideas. And it's something that you have no clue of. Like the Lord has his way of saying things. When he say, like, I shoot my arrows, like in our language, that would mean something. That would have a deeper meaning than what you think today. We know one of the things that mean is missiles, but it's not going to say missiles in the Bible. And it's a lot of other sayings in the Bible that is, you have to understand our culture to understand what it's really saying, the deepness of it. It says translating these nuances into another language can be challenging, and resulting in translation may not convey the same depth or feeling as the original. Do you hear this? This is heavy. Let's keep going. So going back into this name right here, let's go here. I'm going to show you something. And somebody, you got these bug outs among our people that say, what does it matter? It says, what's that, Acts 4:12? We're going to be saved by one name and one name only, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Let's go here, Matthew 1:1. The book of the generation, the Jivas Christ. Let's go to this word Jivas. I'm going to show you something. You're going to learn today. So when you go into this word in the Greek, that's why there's no J there, because they use I, Asus. But check this out. This is one of the most important things that's overlooked, or you haven't been taught this. You have to go back into the root etymology. What does etymology mean? The truth of a word, the origin of a word. It says root word to your right, to the top. Why does it say this here? Root word etymology of Hebrew origin. What are they trying to tell you without them telling you this? That the Messiah had a Hebrew name because he was a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah. So you have to understand these things. That's a part of being studious. That's a part of coming out of ignorance. You have to come on a higher level. So when you go to this name right here, it says Hebrew origin. When you click it, it goes back to Yahweh Shai. They got a different pronunciation because they got the vowels here. That's a whole nother lesson. This is not Paleo Hebrew. This is modern Hebrew. But you see something here. There's no J, right? That sound is not there. It's Yahweh Shai right here. And who you know as Joshua. See, that's why you got so much confusion, because these English names. Joshua, true name was Hawashai, then it got changed to Yahawashai. So him and the Messiah had the same name. That's why this name goes back to Joshua, as you can see here. Joshua is just an English translation. But when you go to Joshua, true name in the Hebrew tongue, his name was Yahawashai. That's why this name Jesus goes back to Yahawashai, because it's the same name right here. Number one, the son of Nun of the tribe of Ephraim, and successor to Moses, proving that this talking about, as you know, as Joshua. But that Joshua, that was not his true name. His true name was Yahawashai. That's why this name goes back to this name. right? So this, when you add the English in here, that's what all the confusion comes in. So this is important to know this. Let's go here. So this English language is a snare. It's a big snare. And when you put that name Jesus in the mix, it comes with that image. You know, this image don't come up when you say the name Jesus. The image comes up in your mind is Yahweh. This was his likeness and his true name. This is how he looked. This is a good representation of how he looked by him being a so-called black man. And that's really the witchcraft that's on all the people's minds, because this name comes with that image. In fact, let's go here. Right here. Comes with this image right here. A devil. You know, Serge Ray Borgia. All right, check this out. I'm going to read this at the top. It says the name Jesus, as we know it in the English, is not the original name given to Jesus. Do you hear this? Do you hear this? It says it evolved through a series of linguistic and cultural transformations. They hid his name and they hid the Most High name. So when you go into the Most High name, they put the name Lord there. When you see Lord in all capital letters, that's Yahweh. That's his true name. But they put that there so they can cause confusion so you won't figure out the truth. This was purposely done. That's why you have to study to show yourself approved to come out of these lies. The name's origin lie in the Hebrew name. They got Yeshua, but that's folly. It's Yahweh, true name. Meaning God is salvation. Yahweh is salvation. This name then transliterated into Greek as Jesus, and later into Latin as Jesus. Do you hear this? It says the English spelling Jesus emerged later, influenced by the Latin and French spellings. That, I mean, I ain't got to even go no deeper. You see this? And somebody, like I say, you got people that's going to say, well, this is not important. To the Hebrew Israelites that's waking up from this witchcraft, it's the most important thing. It's the most important thing in your life. Let's go here. Let's go here. Matter of fact, let's go here. I want to show you this. This for more clarity on this. It says at the top, and I use the name God so you got new people that's waking up. They don't know. They don't know what's up. So we got to talk familiar to them. It says God primarily communicated with the Israelites in Hebrew, not English, not Latin, not Greek, Hebrew. The Old Testament, which details much of the Israelites' history, is written in Hebrew, point blank period. And ain't nothing else going on. Even when you go here, Paul, Salakia, let me find this. This is why the same thing is said in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, you lose all the power in it, the meaning. 1 second, let me let this. 1 second. All right here. And why would the Messiah have an English name? That makes no sense. He wouldn't have a Latin name. That's why when he got crucified, they put on his plaque in the languages of Hebrew, Greek, and I believe Latin. Why Hebrew was there, and they'll lie and say Hebrew was not spoken at that time. They nothing but liars. It says, yes, according to the King James Version of the Bible, Yahushua spoke to Paul in the Hebrew tongue because he was a Hebrew Israelite. When he was on earth, he spoke Hebrew, point blank, period. Right? This is mentioned in Acts 26 and 14. So this clears up all the confusion. Hopefully, this lesson was edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Brachak, Kodash. Shalom.